Hello everybody, my name is BCOM4350. These are my colleagues, athletes and coaches. This is Jeff, this is Seth, this is Shazir, and this is Trevor. And today we're going to be presenting to you guys about how really to grab your audience's attention and how to keep it over the course of a presentation, an interaction, or really any sort of communication. At any point, if you have to deliver a message, it's important that whoever you're communicating that to really is paying attention. And so I'm sure you guys are all familiar, you've probably heard this at some point. I need your, either in school and PE, you've probably heard it, I need your undivided attention, right? And so it's really important that if I'm communicating a message to someone, that they're paying attention to what I have to say. So I'm curious, before we really even dive in to some of the methods we have to really get your audience's attention, what do you guys think? Why is it even important to have someone's attention? And really more than that, in what context, really? Like, when do I need someone's attention? Sure, yeah. So if I, for example, I have a request of someone and I want them to get something done, it's important they're listening, right? Otherwise they might deliver something like, either a failure or something other than what we're looking for. A particular example of this, we can maybe start in a more professional context. If I'm giving a presentation, right, there's an assumption being made that I have some information and you guys have a desire to retain that information, right, or get that information from me. And so if there's someone who's not paying attention, or if my audience in general isn't paying attention, they're essentially, the whole point of my interaction went to waste, right? Similarly, like Dr. K, if he's teaching a class and his students aren't paying attention, then really what was the purpose of him being there that evening, or if his students aren't going to be able to perform on an exam or on a project. But this is sort of more in a professional context. When else can you think of perhaps a time where you need someone's attention?
You want the discussion to go a certain direction.
Sure, yeah, if you want to sort of guide the discussion, that's a really good example. How about even like in our personal lives, right? Like if I'm getting ready, if I'm sort of running late and I'm trying to go somewhere with my friend and he's inside and I say, hey, grab my wallet real quick. And he comes out and he's like, hey, I forgot your wallet, and I have to go inside. And what am I going to say when he gets back? I'm going to say, hey, were you even listening? Were you paying attention? Sometimes my mom or someone will ask, hey, grab these items from the grocery store on your way here, and I'll grab the first item, and it might even be only 3, like milk, egg, and cheese. And I'll grab the milk and call her and say, hey, just wanted to triple check, what was it again that you needed? She said, hey, I just asked you for 3 things. It's because I wasn't paying attention. And so really what we're going to do is we're going to talk to you guys a little bit in detail today about how exactly to grab your audience's attention and how to retain it if you've lost it at any point throughout the presentation. So our agenda for this evening consists of sort of a certain amount of tools to really help you grab your audience's attention. And some of these are going to be how to use questions and quotes to really keep your audience engaged from the get-go. How to use videos, significant statistics, and expert opinions to provide some credibility and interest, right? Sort of like a wow factor to your presentation. Also, how to use personal stories, personal anecdotes, really to help your audience feel relatable to the presenter, right? So if I'm able to provide some context, and perhaps about my personal life, it'll increase the odds of people being able to relate with me and therefore paying more attention to what I have to say. From there, we'll go on to a group activity, and then we'll discuss one final strategy as to how to grab your audience's attention. Then we have a quiz, and we have some questions. So moving along, our first technique really to grab your audience's attention is to ask a question, right? You guys may have seen I sort of demonstrated that in the introduction, but really by asking a question, you're accomplishing a few things, right? First and foremost, in a way, you're forcing your audience to engage, right? So if I'm asking my audience for a response outright in the form of a question, I'm saying right off the bat that, hey, I care what you think about, but let's sort of have an interaction. So I'm sort of, if my audience didn't want to engage, I'm pushing them to say, hey, let's interact and let's make this more of a two-way communication, right? Because in the context of a presentation, in most cases, your audience is going to be assuming this is one-way information. I'm going to be listening to a presentation and I'm going to be digesting the information. And by sort of saying, hey, I want your feedback or give me the answer to this question, you're really now making it a two-way thing, which is more likely to increase the attention your audience is paying to your presentation. Furthermore, asking a question really encourages dialogue, right? And there's a really important point this gets to. If any of you guys have ever studied sales or business, a term you may have come across perhaps would have been building rapport, right? Establishing a relationship in a relatively short amount of time. The reason this is particularly important is because if I'm selling a product or a service to a potential client, it's important that I have his trust, right? That I have his best interest at heart, and that I'm actually going to provide value to his firm or to his company. Likewise, in a presentation-like environment, if I'm here to convey a message to my audience, it's really important that there's some sort of a relationship being built. And so by asking a question, I'm kickstarting that relationship, right? I'm starting that two-way sort of communication that shows my audience, again, that I really care about what they think, and it helps to establish that relationship. And finally, a really practical implementation of asking a question is allows you to, in real time, gauge your audience, right? So by asking questions, for example, in the context of leadership, if I ask questions like, considering what you know, what might you think that the reason would be for this, right? It allows me to sort of see where is my audience in terms of the general subject matter that I'm presenting on. And so if I pose this question and I sort of see a lot of lost eyes or people really puzzling through what I'm saying, either they weren't paying attention or perhaps the subject matter is a little too heavy and I need to break it down a little more. Furthermore, at this point I can also see how interested my audience is in what I have to say. So if I ask a question and I see that people aren't looking around, or all of a sudden I see a bunch of people saying, what do you say? Or I want to answer the question. It sort of gives me the impression that people aren't paying attention. And so at this point, something else I can do is I can sort of fine-tune my presentation in the moment and provide my audience either something more exciting, I can make my presentation more concise, I can provide more visual feedback. So that's our first point, and now we're going to be moving along to how to use quotes to really grab your audience's attention and retain their attention. And I'll pass it off to Seth to take this point.
Thank you. So use of quotations. When someone says or writes something really memorable or powerful, you might think, why couldn't I say it like that? Well, you can. Using a quotation boosts your credibility and adds strength to your message. Quotations are one way to add variety to your logical arguments, along with facts, statistics, and other material. Depending on how you deliver your quote, you can create anticipation, humor, drama, and suspense, which helps a lot to grab audience's attention. When using a quotation, you should make sure that it is from a reliable source and it's not anything out of context. It should relate to your message and support your message. Albert Einstein once said, it's not that I'm smart, it's just that I stay with problems longer. When you notice this quote, it's pretty simple and straightforward, but is able to deliver a strong message, which is if you keep working hard for something you want to accomplish, you will achieve that eventually. Your credibility is critical in speaking. A quotation from a well-known person could add strength to your message. Former President Barack Obama is known as a well-known speaker. His quotes in his speeches are persuasive, memorable, and entertaining. Just like this one. Change will not come if you wait for some other person or some other time. We are the ones we have been waiting for. We are the change that we seek. Also, Albert Einstein once said, it's not that I'm so smart. So I'm repeating that again. So Thomas Jefferson once said, nothing is more confusing than people who give good advice but set bad examples. So this quote shows us, it characterizes the personality of a speaker or a leader and shows us that if you try to give good advices and not act on it, then it's not worth it. So the quotes I just went through, which one of that quote you guys think grabs more attention? I quoted Thomas Jefferson, I quoted Albert Einstein.
Probably Albert Einstein for me, since I didn't use that exact quote, but I used quotes from him for my pop personally. So probably that one correlates with me a lot.
Okay. So now we are going to jump to visual aids. Visual aids can powerfully help the effectiveness of a speech. It can greatly enhance the value of a speaker. Visual aids can help reach your objectives by providing emphasis to whatever is being said. Many speeches benefit from having objects, images, videos, or audios presented in a clear and dramatic fashion. Having a visual in a presentation improves audience understanding and memory. It facilitates more eye contact and the motion of the speaker, which in turn catches the audience's attention. A visual also enhances the perception of the speaker. They are enhancements to a presentation that can engage the audience, provide additional feedback, and reinforce key points. One thing you should make sure of is that the visual aid you are using in your presentation should support the message being conveyed. Consistency between what is being said and what is being seen is crucial to a speaker's presentation. If the visual is not relevant, it can lead to a breakdown of communication between the speaker and the audience. Visual images are often remembered longer than the verbal ones, as people can understand the topic being presented much better. In a study done at the Wharton Research Center, they showed that using visual slides had a dramatic effect on message retention rate. The effect of using visuals is truly staggering. Now let's watch a video which is very inspiring and grabs audience's attention. The video basically shows a coach inspiring his high school football players to play hard and go out there. So let's
skip to 207.
Couple things I want to say to you now, and I'll get to you about this daggone rope. But let me tell you, we got a good one tonight, fellas. We got a good one tonight. You got a team in here that doesn't respect you, just for what Coach Chris told you. But that's okay. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that because sometimes in life you have to make people earn your respect. You understand what I'm saying? That's cool. Sometimes you gotta have people that say, you know what, damn, I underestimated him. I didn't think he was going to get that job done to get the promotion. I didn't think they were going to win that game. So now you got to earn some respect. How do you earn respect? You do 4 things. You out hit them, you out hustle them, you out work them, you out compete them. Out hustle, out hit them, out hustle them, out compete them. And everything else will fall into place. Special teams, know your job, do your role. Defense, play assignment football. Offense, come out and play. Somebody finish for me. Somebody finish it for me. No, you try to run, but you're going to play what? Hard. No, we're going to play fast. You're going to come out, play fast, and then we're going to pound the rock. That's what you need to do, my friends. That's what you got to do. Guys, it's going to be a great one. Now, you might be wondering why I got this rope out here. Hold on to that freaking rope. Life is like a journey. You get to the top of the mountain, and you got to help your teammates, and all you got is a rope, and you got to hold on to that rope, and you got to lift others as you climb. So tonight, they want to try to take you off the rope. They want to try to push you around. Don't let them take you off that rope. You hold that rope for each other. You don't let your teammate fall off. That's what the rope symbolizes. Rope keeps things together. Rope is a sign of hope. What do you do when somebody's drowning? They go on rope. When somebody's hurt, you go on rope. But right now, I've thrown you a rope. Everybody holds on to that rope. You hold this team tight. You hold that rope tight. If somebody starts to slip off, you hold that guy going rope till your fingers start to bleed.
So, the video got a little pretty intense at the end, but as you can see, he used a rope to visualize his point. He wants them to work as a team and not let anyone knock them off their course. So the way this was so effective is that he grabbed their attention before using a visual aid and maintained it while using a visual aid, right? So he had he was screaming in their face, telling them they're kind of like their 4 core values, something that coaches are going to pound into your memory to make sure that you're always engaged throughout the whole season. Don't let you know these are our 4 core values, and he's saying it, and when he messes up, he's telling people he wants basically audience engagement, right, in the locker room. Somebody finish it for me, somebody finish it for me. And then he dives into why they have a rope. So he's going to make them sit there and think about why do we have this rope in our hand? Why is everyone on the team holding it? And then he's building up, and then just like that, they got it's less of a pump up and more of an understanding of if not everyone's holding this rope, we're dropping the rope, right? And we're losing the game. So that's exactly how it goes. And we're going to move now into some statistics and why statistics are used to grab people's attention, how they can be used, and why they're important. So with statistics, it's usually for a shock value, but it also can be used to deeper the understanding of your audience, right? And so these statistics have to be relevant to your audience. As a leader, if you are, say you're in a classroom and you're managing a team, right? Or you're at a business, right? And you're managing a team, okay? And they elect you to go in there and speak to the board directors about a proposal you have. You have statistics that are relevant to them, maybe their profits, quarterly earnings, something that they want to hear, right? If those statistics aren't going to put them on the edge of their seat, they've heard them before. You have to bring in relevant information that pertain to your audience and grab their attention right away. And so you can use statistics to keep attention on you throughout the time, but do not overload them with statistics. You need to fill that gap with your own notions and whatnot. And so this graph up here to the left, I decided to bring some statistics that are relevant to us today. So UT Dallas, if you look, it's a lot lower than Texas with students graduating with debt after college, and then compared to the nation, it's surprisingly, almost half. So that's pretty great. Now we're going to move on to a case study. It's kind of a relevant case study of an example of why these statistics, how they can be important to grab attention, and what kind of scenarios they can be in. So this is a case with 2 NFL players, right? Can anybody name these 2 NFL players up here? Does anybody have any clue who they are? Aaron Hernandez is one. Thank you so much. Anybody else know the guy on the left? Anyone San Diego Chargers fan? Well, this guy, his name is Junior Seau, right? And so this case is about NFL concussions and kind of the damage they do after your playing career, right? And so Aaron Hernandez, a lot of people know him because of his conviction for 2 murders, right? And Junior Seau, not really known here in Texas, but within the league, within the NFL offices, and in the world of brain studies, and he's kind of a hero, right? So he played for the LA Chargers, Patriots, bounced around the league a lot, but took huge hits, right? Played 20 years in the NFL, okay? And so if you see these statistics up here, you can see high schoolers, they tested high schoolers, Canadian football players, professional football players, and they found, remember this number, they found CTE in almost nearly 90% of the cases studied. And so these are donated brains, right? You can only test for it after death. So two of the people in the study that didn't have the cases of CTE were middle schoolers, right? So it's more of when you have big body, big weight in each other, that's when the problem comes, right? And so these statistics are starting to raise awareness, and they grab the attention of certain doctors when they see symptoms of people after the career, like where they're at right now. I mean, they're shaking, they don't remember things well, and they just had a 20-year awesome career. What's the problem? What's going on, right? And so, Junior Seau, he committed suicide, and he knew his brain needed to be tested, and he was going to be the first one. With the kind of statue he was on of being a great player, it was going to take someone of his caliber to grab everyone's attention, right? And so he used his platform and basically he donated his brain, and they found him. This is how this whole ball got rolling, right? And then so going back, 27 years old, Aaron Hernandez just passed away in prison, right? And so he also took his own life, which is really sad, and he donated his brain too, and they found stage 3 out of 4 possible stages, right? And he's 27, this old dude, this other guy, Junior Seau, he's older than the number on his chest, right? And so that's the scary part, is that one man's 27 in stage 3, and you could say, there's an argument that says he could have been ruled insane because of the CT. We just don't know enough yet, right? So between these two men, there's been enough attention on this kind of topic to where they've grabbed attention, they've maintained it, and now they're starting to make rule changes in the NFL with equipment for player safety. And so now we're going to move on to expert opinions, all right? So these are two Dallas guys, at least one of them is. Can anybody name the guy on the left? No Cowboys fans in here? Tony Romo?
Oh, no, Romo.
No Romo? All right, and the guy on the right, I think a lot of us grew up with him in science class. Exactly, Bill Knight, and like Chris said, he was here. This picture is taken with the presentation that he was here with his UT Dallas bow tie, and this is a picture of Tony Romo, who's just moved into a new career from pro football to being a commentator and analyzer for CBS Sports, and he works with the NFL, right? And so these are two different things where a leader in their field, they have expert opinions. And why do we trust these expert opinions? Why do they grab our attention, right? It's because it establishes you already have the credibility established. If I'm asking anyone about anything science, anything that astronomy, nothing that I don't understand, right? I can't understand anything about space. I'm trusting this guy. I'm not trusting this guy. He has no credibility in that field, right? I'm trusting this dude. He came here. He wears a UT Dallas bow tie. He knows his audience, right? So I'm trusting this guy. If I'm watching football and he's trying to commentate and he's trying to tell me, oh, that was a bad throw, I don't think so. I'm listening to this guy, right? He's the expert. He's the expert opinion. He's going to grab my attention on his subjects, and he's going to grab his attention on his subjects, right? And so the way you can use an expert opinion, like I said, is to establish credibility right off the bat, and maybe work in another opinion of that person, or bring in multiple opinions, just to establish more credibility. And you want your expert opinions, you want them to be relevant to the audience. So I mentioned Bill Nye while he was at UT Dallas, so it pertains to a UT Dallas thing, and Romo, kind of this Dallas like Metroplex feel. So it pertains to the audience. Make sure you tailor these tools that we're giving you guys to the audience that's in front of you. And so we'll be moving on to an activity now. And so for this activity, I want you guys to break up into teams that you already are in. And if you don't mind, you can also join that back group right there. And so what we're going to be doing is you're going to get 3 to 5 minutes to just come up with a list of 5 leaders or people that we all kind of know, and tell me how exactly they grabbed your attention, or why are they good at grabbing attention, right? And so we're going to elect a speaker for each of the 3 groups, and then we're going to share it together and discuss why exactly they grab attention really well. So. And think about it, doesn't have to be political, doesn't have to be a sports figure at all. And so think about those 5 people.
But what do you think that's the challenge? How
you guys doing? You guys thinking of something?
Honestly, I'm the best leader I've known. I can remember
Did she grab attention? Try to think about these leaders, how they grab your attention.
right.
No, we don't have to be leaders, but prominent figures in fields or whoever you can think of who grabs your attention, how they maintain, how they keep your attention. That's the important part. Is like anyone can grab your attention, but what's that one person you're remembering, right? So try to think of those people who maintain your attention. How are you guys doing up here? Very good.
I don't think we can agree on anything.
Really? All right, everyone.
We don't think any of them are good leaders.
Try to think of a leader that maintains your attention, right? It doesn't have to be a comedian who comes on stage and uses like physical comedy.
Teacher or professor, someone who taught you something that influenced you in a certain way.
I don't even know my professor's name.
Right?
As soon as I leave that class, I try to forget.
What about,
Can you talk to me back there?
Tyson, the guy from.
All right, one more minute.
Wants to know
One more minute.
I thought you were Mike Tyson.
No, not Mike Tyson.
25.
Yeah, 2 minutes left. 35.
All right, guys.
Tyson.
Let's wrap it up. All right, let's get an elected speaker for each group.
Yeah, you go ahead and
And
say what it is.
looks like you got volunteered. So this first group, let's hear a couple of your names that you came up with.
Trump,
Right?
Kim Jong-il,
Okay. What else you got?
Steve Jobs, and Kim Kardashian.
Well, they definitely. So they got Kim Kardashian, Steve Jobs, and 2 of the most notorious people in the news right now, right? All 4 of those people know exactly how to grab your attention. Some take selfies, some tweet excessively, right?
But that doesn't make him a leader.
Right, they grab your attention.
How to grab your attention.
Or being
creative. They're a leader.
If you sell like almost $500 million in cosmetics in like a split second.
You're a leader just for sure, right?
You're a leader.
For sure, exactly.
Kim
What's
Kardashian,
the
the leader.
fashion?
Yeah.
Whatever she wears, that's what's
Yeah.
trendy.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
Kim Kardashian,
You
the
didn't say
leader.
what type.
No, that's perfect. I love all examples. What about you guys? What you guys got a leader that you think grabbed your
We
attention?
couldn't really come to a consensus on anybody.
We came to Colin Powell,
And why so?
and we also had Trump. And
Yeah, I figured a lot of people would.
Colin Powell was able to, when you think about Colin Powell, he was a general inside of the Army. He was able to get people to go in and risk their own lives, run into a nest, like a nest that has a 240 or a 50 caliber, and his men followed him without question.
Right. And then, so what about this group back here? Who's one person you guys came up with, the best person on your list?
Best person on our list,
Yeah.
we would have to go with Obama. You guys
Okay.
feel that one?
Yeah. He definitely knows how to grab attention, like we said, in his public speaking and his speeches. Yeah. All right. So now I'm going to pass it off to Trevor, and he's going to expand on a couple more tools you guys can use to grab attention.
All right, everybody. Here to talk about 2 different devices y'all can use to grab the audience's attention. So the next one is testimonials. So with testimonials, I'm sure most of y'all have heard a testimonial before, but you may not have known that was what you were hearing. So I'll just describe a testimonial. It's a personal story told by an individual whose experience can help boost your ability to grab your audience. Okay, so when we hear testimonials, what makes them so powerful is that they motivate us to replicate what the person has done. So if they're believable and we feel like we can achieve them as well, then they have more power. So an example, for example, where a man that weighs maybe 200 pounds, he can't expect to lose 150 pounds like another testimonial might be able to. So he maybe doesn't believe that testimonial quite as strongly. So once they're accepted though, once you feel like this is something I can achieve and I can relate to this testimonial, it is often used to sell like a product or service. Maybe it's weight loss or a self-help book. Just mostly they have to do with improving your life. So that creates an emotional appeal whenever you're trying to sell something based on a testimonial. The emotional appeal that comes from that is very strong. So in this picture here, got a competitor in The Biggest Loser. How many of y'all have seen that? It's a pretty entertaining show. So if you haven't seen it, they do athletic competitions to try to lose weight, and it's pretty rigorous. But I'm sure if any of y'all heard a testimonial from this guy here, he'd be pretty impressed to follow the same practices that he did. So the next device I'm talking about is going to be startling statements. So for startling statements, if y'all look at this picture here, which one of these do you think is more dangerous? It's Bambi or Jaws?
Bambi.
So, I mean, the idea is to mislead y'all a little bit. The startling fact, though, is, of course, Bambi is actually 20 times more dangerous to humans than sharks are. There's 200 about every year of deer-car collisions in the U.S., so they can be pretty deadly. And so what makes this example of a startling statement good is that it kind of lures the audience in one direction, and then you can really get their attention when they hear something that is surprising. So when the statistic is believable, it gains a little bit more powerful. Sometimes you might use a statistic that is just doesn't really relate to your audience, it's a little too far-fetched, and you might actually lose credibility with your audience. So it's important that you use a startling statement that is believable. So with that, there's a couple other ways that they can fail. If you try to use humor and that fails, and then also if you just get too into it and go at the top. So a little bit low on time, but I'll pass on to Shazir about next devices.
So telling a story can provide the audience with an example from another point of view. Someone that might be more familiar with the topic or the subject at hand. In this case, Steve Jobs told a story about his struggles at Reed College, where he didn't even end up graduating from. But he smoothly transitioned into his speech and talked about his experiences at Reed College and how he used that to move forward. So just as a question, Rashid, can you think of a personal experience that you've had which you used in a speech maybe throughout the past? Earlier today, okay, cool. So the point of bringing that up is a lot of us bring in personal examples, whether we go into work or we come into school, we should like sharing examples and stories because it creates accountability and relatability. The next one is using anecdotes as stories. The stories we tell maintain and perpetuate our society. It causes us to move forward and evolve from a need to communicate with our own experiences with other human beings. We tell stories to elicit change, teach, and entertain. Now's the quiz. Okay, everyone, we have prepared a quiz at the back of the brochure in order to see if you guys have learned during today's presentation.
We're a little tight on time, so we're going to go ahead and do about a minute for this exercise, and then we'll go over some answers.
How's it coming along? Most of you guys getting all right? Tricky. Yeah, here we go. We'll show the answers now. Not gonna really go over them. 5-question quiz. Hope the true and false was a little easy, but the last quote and the percentile we want you guys to remember too. So
yeah. So in closing, just real quick, why is the topic of attention of such interest to professionals and really in personal relationships? Why is having someone's attention so important? We touched on this a little bit, but it's important to understand, what are we competing with, right? Like, why isn't it that I'm here in front of you guys giving a presentation and you guys are sitting in the audience, but why don't I just inherently have everyone's attention at 100%, right? Why is someone checking their cell phone, and why is someone perhaps maybe thinking about the job interview they had earlier in the day and they're not paying attention to me? So something really important to understand is that at all points, really, when we're fighting for attention, we're trying to grab it from something else. And really, what we're trying to provide for you guys is all these steps that we provided today in unison can really be used to have a full toolkit to really handle some of these issues of grabbing an audience's attention and retaining it, right? So for example, throughout in a presentation, if I've lost someone's attention, either if they had something happen in the day, or, I mean, let's be honest, there's a lot of important stuff happening in a lot of you guys' lives, I can sort of refocus that attention toward my presentation by proposing a question, or by proposing a quote, or bringing some interesting information in the form of statistics or relevant information from a professional in the field. And so really, this is what we had for you guys today in order to really help you guys to grab your audience's attention in the future. And with that, do you guys have any questions for us with the presentation?